starting here, like, because we talked about like that, you said your parents always called you bossy. The reason why we even crossed paths or even got to know each other is because of the fact that you were adopted, and later on in life found out that you had biological family who existed, and you got a chance to connect with them, and that's who I'm related to, that those family members. And so, when you talk about your parents, can you explain to me, I guess, were they always your parents? Did you know any other parents before them? Like, can you just help me understand, like, when you realized that not even when you realized, but just were these the only parents you ever knew prior to figuring out you had biological family?
So growing up, I always thought it was my parents. I actually found out a horrible way that I was actually adopted. I found out at 9. It was one of those family meetings because we were talking about going on vacation, and I don't think he was doing it to be malicious or being spiteful, but my brother made a little joke and was like, "Oh, I don't know why you're in here. You're not part of the family." So I was like, "Wait, what you talking about?" So my mom and dad got mad because they didn't want me to find out like that, and they didn't want me to find out at that age. My parents really wanted to tell me when I was old enough to be able to understand, more so like high school. But when my brother, came out and said what he said, that's when my mom and dad, just said, "Hey, Kiara, yes, you are adopted." And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, "Okay, so what does that mean?" And so they were just like, "You're not biologically our child. You're someone else's, child." But, they weren't able to raise you. So they were able to, put you up for adoption for us to be able to, raise you. So I knew at 9, but I really didn't put forth the effort until I was about 18, only because when I wanted to find out in high school, I was too young. And of course, I had to have consent from my parents to find out. My dad really wasn't feeling it because he was more so like, "I don't want you to get hurt," which any parent, that's understandable. No parent wants to see their child hurt, in the outcome of any type of situation. But once I turned 18, I was able to request my adoption papers, which I did. It wasn't a lot, and then I lost them. And then I recently requested them again around the time my dad passed away. And then that's when I did the ancestry. And then I kind of let it go just because it was always fifth, sixth cousins. It wasn't anybody close to first, second. And then that's really when everything started to kick off.
Okay.
When I started getting those.
Okay. So you didn't necessarily, you don't have any memory of, say, existence outside of that household with your parents. Like, you don't know or have any memories before that.
Because I no, because I was adopted as a baby.
What age were
So
you adopted? Do you
a month.
1 month old you were adopted? Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. And so one of the things, like, I think I've heard, like, the term closed adoption.
Mhm.
Like, what is it, like, are there different types of adoption? And I understand, like, yours was like, can you help me just understand what closed versus some other types of adoption, what that actually means?
So there's closed adoption and there's open adoption. So closed adoption is pretty much where the biological parents just agree to not want my adoptive parents to know them at all. So it's more so like everything is closed off. So you don't know who they are, where they're from, how old they were. We don't know none of that. An open adoption is where both families keep that line of communication open. So it's like both sides know about each other. So the son or the daughter can learn about, hey, this is your biological and this is your adoptive. So mine was closed. So I didn't know anything. So all of my medical records, everything was closed.
Closed. I didn't realize that I guess those were the two categories when you I guess put, so I guess do the both biological parents choose if it's an open or closed adoption, or how is that decided?
So, from what I was told, back then when I was born, it was more so common for it to be a closed adoption. It wasn't really common to be open. And even still, when it's closed, some people tend to still trying to find ways to, converse between the adoptive and the birth parents, but that's completely on them. But by law, it's mine was straight closed. So it just depends on how they want to go about it. There are some open adoptions. Like, I don't know if a lot of people watch it, but Teen Mom, there was one where her adoption, there was one of the cast members, her adoption, she gave her daughter up for adoption. Hers was open. They actually got to choose who they wanted their child to be raised by. I didn't have that choice. Once I was born, I was put in with a children's home society. And then, my parents said what they wanted. They said, we want a girl, and we want a girl that looks like us. And I was that girl. So once they got me January 16th, 1989, I've been with them ever since.
Alrighty, so what city, and if you don't mind sharing, like where were you born?
So I was told it was Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but I later on found out I was actually born in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, okay, right down the road from Durham.
Right down the road.
Okay, so you were born in Raleigh, but were adopted in and grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And so you say, okay, so you were adopted at 1 month old. No, so obviously no memory of anything from before that point. And so you get adopted, and the way you found out, like I can only imagine what that felt like to hear that in such a hurtful way. Somebody essentially intentionally trying to hurt. So how many siblings did you grow up with?
One.
So it was just in the household. It was you,
And
a
my older brother.
mother, a father, and an older brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what's the age difference between you and your older brother?
3.5.
3.5 years. So when he was 3.5, they brought home a 1 month-year-old young lady. He went from only child son to having to share this attention with a adopted 1 month old. And you found out at age 9. So let me ask you this: from 1 month to age 9, did you ever suspect something's just a little different?
I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it from 1 month to 9. I didn't notice it at all. It didn't. I didn't think of anything different. It was just, brother, sister, mother, father. That's all my mindset was. But I will say, once after I did find out, as I got older, I was like, okay, yeah, it was starting to hit me, just because their personalities are so similar. Not only their personalities, their birthdays are all a month apart, literally May, June, and July. Mine's all the way in December. But the personalities are different. They're more laid back. It takes a lot to get them upset. I'm a ticking bomb. So it doesn't take me that long to snap at all.
So talk to me about this ticking bomb. Like, what does that mean? You're a ticking bomb.
The smallest thing will make me just snap on somebody. Like, anything. Like, it could be, why did you leave the door open? Like, it could be it could just be something small like that, when my parents or my brother will just go and close the door and not say nothing. Me, I'm like, why did you leave the door open? Like, you could have clearly closed the door. Or if somebody were to say something about my parents or my brother, they would brush it off. Like, they would just walk away. Me, I'd be like, what you say? No, repeat that. Like, I'll go. I can go 0 to 100 real quick.
So when you were growing up, did you get into like altercations, or did you have did you get any type of fisticuffs in any frequency growing up?
Elementary school, I did get suspended from this after school program. I was like the ringleader. One little girl wanted to play with us. So I was like, oh, okay, so in order for you to play with us, these girls, y'all got to do this to her. And it came back, to where They didn't like that. She told the counselor, she told her parents told the principal, and they suspended me from the after school fun club. Never got in trouble in middle school, me personally. But if I seen something where if my dad and I would pick my brother up from school, from high school, if there was like him get into some type of confrontation with a female, I'll be ready to be like, who are you? Like I would go. Like I would just be like, okay. And it would be funny because a lot of people, to my brother, he would tell them, oh, my little sister. So to them, they were thinking that when he says little sister, they're thinking like 4 or 5 years old. But it's like, no, it's me being in the, 8th grade. Let me see. Not college. When I graduated from high school, I did get into a fight. Got into a fight. Caught one girl my brother was messing with. He dated. She was actually at a movies with some other dude. She didn't like that. My brother turned around and broke up with her. She called my phone talking smack. I was able to get off work early. I get to my parents' house. She's outside of my parents' house. I'm like, you need to leave. And she didn't want to leave. My dad tried to break it up. She swung and she connected my dad. So when she connected him, I went after her. The police were called. We were both taken downtown. I fought in college. I went to Livingstone College. I fought there too. I didn't get suspended. Very close to the head security guard. So that kept me from not getting suspended or expelled or kicked out of college. That's honestly been like the only thing I really gotten into. Oh no, I got jumped. In middle school, I got jumped. But then I came back and I got into a fight with them again. I won that fight.
I wonder where like the or like at least in my experience, right? Because like I got triggers myself, right? Like I had to take anger management growing up. Me and Kevin got in the fisticuffs a couple times as kids, and a lot of my anger stems from what would be daddy issues, if you will. So I'm just curious, as someone who has like conscious daddy issues, right? Like I don't know, like in your opinion, because you say you're like this firecracker and it's something like in you, and I'm like I'm just curious, like, do you ever like, because you said you didn't realize, but like, do you feel like there's something like innately there that's causing like a trigger to snap to be like that towards certain situations? Do you feel like you're still like that today? Like how do you wrangle that in?
I've calmed down a lot. I've definitely calmed down a lot. When you brought up daddy issues and I had that smirk, I was always a daddy's girl. I will always say that. I was always a daddy's girl, but we always bumped heads. My dad was a preacher. He was a pastor. Of course, we get the stereotype, the PK kids are the worst. I think that's still a stereotype. But I will say, between my brother and I'm about to sound very hypocritical, I was more the outspoken one. But my dad and I had issues. And I think what it was to me, even though I love my dad, I don't think I got the love that I really wanted. But my dad was that type of person, though. My dad wasn't the type a person to show affection, and I had to grow up to understand that. I used to say, well, why this, why that? And I would try to have conversations with him. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it wouldn't. And then it would be like, well, I'll talk to my mom about it. My mom would talk to my dad, and then my dad would come to me and say, well, your mother felt like, and I took offense to that. Like, don't come to me because of what someone else said. Like, why not understand it yourself and then come converse with me about it then? I think that kind of resulted in a lot of my anger, just not feeling that affection that I wanted from my dad. But I think like as I got older, it just became like a chip off the shoulder. It was just like, this is him. I can't change him. I can't change anybody. And I think I had to later on learn, like, he's not a bad person. There's a lot of kids out in this world who don't even have, father figures. So it's like, as I got older, I was like, okay, well, I need to accept what I have, because a lot of kids don't have that. So as I got older, I started to have a clear understanding, and then my anger kind of reduced a lot.